Right here we're out in the open field again. Nice wide road. And then this happens. Major crash. Guys are flying over the top of each other. The whole road is filled with bikes and riders.
What's up guys? What's up cycling? Fanatics! Today we're in Assen, that's pretty far up north in the country, and I'm riding the Dorpenomloop van Drenthe. Have a look where I am right now. That's the BMX track of Assen. How cool is that? Some nostalgic thoughts coming back to me from back in the days. Back in my BMX riding days. Hey, we just got into our racing kit. It's 175 kilometers today. 7 continental teams are present. It's gonna be a hard race. All the Conti teams are right here. We've got some cobble sections in this race. It's not super windy, but I think it's gonna be enough to make it a hard race. So expectations are that it's gonna break up kind of quick today. Just like last race in Groningen. Really important to stay in the front at the moments that matter. And the hardest thing is actually to decide when it actually matters. I don't know. So, learning goal of today, make it into the first group. All the boys getting ready. Bike is ready. Got those cameras in the front and in the back. Ready to go. I'm wearing this photochromatic glasses from Sirocco. It's a bit cloudy, so these will adjust when we ride into those cobble sections in the forest. They're gonna brighten up, so I still have a clear vision. And when the sun would break through, it's gonna get darker and I still have a clear vision. Yeah.
Alright, so here we're doing some warm-up laps just a couple minutes before the start of the race. And as you can see, the lens is getting wet. There was some light rain just before the start of the race. Not very comfortable. The forecast was that there was going to be some light rain just before, just in the morning, and then in the afternoon it should be clearing up. So let's hope the rest of the race would stay dry. Guys, get comfortable and get ready for another big race with a lot of action. There's like 5 crashes that I had to avoid, and they're all on video. Besides that, we're racing on cobbles. That was really tough. So get ready for some race action right now. I just want to thank you guys for joining in for another video. Don't forget to hit the like button and drop me a comment down below. The editing process of these videos is very extensive. It takes me a lot of time. So please show some appreciation for these videos and subscribe to the channel, of course. And then here we go with the race. And that's the sound of the gunshot. 175 kilometers in Drenthe, which is a province in the Netherlands. We're starting in the town of Assen, right next to the BMX track, like you could have seen in my intro. And there were 5 continental teams present in this race, so you could say really it is a pro level race combined with club level riders like my team, the Volharding. And this is the neutralization. As always, it was hectic, it was crazy, and it took a very long time. Sometimes they expand the neutralized zone. Right here we're 7 kilometers into the race and it's still neutralized. And the reason is probably that somebody has some mechanical issues and they're waiting for them to catch up, or something has happened why they not let the race actually start, because the neutralized zone was only going to be about 5 kilometers. But still, neutralized. As always guys, the speed and RPM in the left bottom, you'll see the distance into the race and my heartbeat. In the bottom you'll see the power, and at the right you'll have the track layout. It was northwest to the southeasterly oriented. The wind was from the south today, so we had a lot of head and a lot of tailwind. Now this race really was about the cobbles. Everything was focused on the cobbles. After 100 kilometers, it was gonna start. So it was pretty much a matter of staying focused up in that time. Nothing was gonna happen until we hit the cobbles. That's what everybody expected. And I'm not talking about these brick streets right here. This is just brick road. And we're going in and out of villages. This race is called Dorpenomloop van Drenthe, which is sort of freely translated into the village omnium of Drenthe. So we're going in and out of all these villages that had a lot of tight turns and these brick roads, bumpy streets. But the cobbles would start at 100 kilometers. And these were serious cobbles, as you're gonna see somewhere further up in this video. So it was a matter of staying focused, staying somewhat in the front, because right before or at or after the cobbles, 100% sure it was going to break up. That's what happened every year, and that's what was going to be expected this year. It wasn't super windy, so the chances it breaking up by the wind is small. But first, it really was just a matter of surviving the first 100k. Some points were very hectic, and I recorded 5 crashes, and they all happened right in front of me or right next to me. So they're all going to be in this video, so make sure you check it out from beginning till the end, because this race was all about crashes and cobbles. And right here, 9 kilometers in the race, look at this pile of bikes. First crash is a fact. Pretty big crash on the middle of the street. Everybody's going around. Luckily, I didn't crash with them and I could go around. And there were a lot of guys going around, so it was a stretched out field, but we could just follow wheels and ride back to make one big peloton again. I'm not sure how the guys that crashed ended up. I hope they are okay. So as you can see here again, sharp turns. Like I said before, we're going in and out of these villages. And these sharp turns always stretch out the field. They make the race a little bit harder because when you're not in the front, you'll have to accelerate a little bit more. You have to brake a little bit more. So it's like this yo-yo effect. And you're just pushing out a little more watts and you're expending a little bit more energy. So I was starting somewhat in the middle of the pack, and gradually I wanted to move my way up forward, so I would have actually better view of the front of the race, what was happening in the front, if there would be attacks. Here again you can see these sharp turns on these brick roads, and it was raining. It started raining just before the race, so yeah, the roads were wet, which would have really bad effect on the cobbles. If they would be really wet, it would be very difficult, but that's for later in this race. And you can see a couple guys, if you pay attention on the wheels and tires they're riding on very wide tires. I had my normal 25mm tires. I did lower my tire pressure. I was riding with 7 bars, which doesn't sound too low, but I'm quite heavy and I didn't want to risk a puncture. So I still had 7 bars, and the first 100 kilometers was still without cobbles. So I didn't want to change everything just for this couple cobble sections. So after the race I thought it could be a little lower, so next race with cobbles I will lower my tire pressure a little bit, but it would be even better to go wider, so to have like 28mm tires. And I think there was a couple guys in the peloton. The guy in front of me, Monkey Town, with the fluo green, fluo yellow jersey, he had pretty wide tires on his bike. And right now I'm pretty close to the front of the peloton, and it was like always attacks. It's just, that's how the speed goes up. It's attacks, 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 even though it wasn't a very important moment in the race because we all knew it was going to happen at the cobbles, but still, there's always guys attacking. And I just wanted to move up to the front to see what was going on. So right here, I'm actually at the front of the race, and you can see a couple guys on the road. They have a little gap, but there's a lot of guys chasing. So I surely was not going to chase. I was just going to follow. And I just wanted to see who was attacking. If it's a couple club riders, maybe I don't want to follow. If it's a good combination of different continental riders, you can be pretty sure the break is going to stay away because the rest of their teammates are going to shut it down. So my plan was to stay somewhat in the front and really pay attention to who was going. If it would be a good combination, I would try to jump on it. I was not going to attack myself. I just didn't want to do that. So right here you can see it's Electo, all in one big formation. We've got Vlasman in yellow. We've got Maytech. We've got Monkey Town. All these continental teams are in the front. And when they are, you know that either they're just controlling the race very well or something is about to happen. In general, when there's a big crosswind section coming up or when there would be like a cobble section coming up, these teams will go to the front and everybody just starts racing like maniacs. Right here, back into another village. Like I said, we're going in and out of villages all day, which made this race a little bit harder. But in general, until now, I didn't feel like it was a really hard race. It was all pretty good. I was able to stay like in the first 50 riders, so I was pretty happy. My goal was to, if there would be a break, to make it into the break, focusing on that 100 kilometer mark where the cobbles would start. And that was the point where I really wanted to be in the front. So I was just laying low. I was trying to conserve energy a little bit and just staying in the pack, drafting, which is always nice. And a little bit further up the race, there was really the first moment it went a little bit fast. You see, everything single file and straight away gaps opening up. Shitty thing is, I was behind the gap. So when you're more in the front, you'll be the guy in the echelon. You won't be the guy in the gutter. That's always good. Whoa, Thomas, my teammate, is doing some dance moves right here, going around this Electo guy. First time I was riding with Thomas here in the race. He's always an aggressive rider, staying in the front, going with moves. So I was just following his wheel a little bit, seeing what he was up to, and staying in the front or somewhat close to the front to see what was going on and to be able to maybe go with a move or maybe not. Constantly moving up, that's important. Right here I'm behind Beat. He moves up, I see he's moving up, so I just follow his wheel and ride to the front. If you're not moving up, you're moving back, simple as that. So riding in a peloton is nothing but easy, it's nothing but relaxed. You constantly have to be focused and stay alert, especially in this race where we had all these sharp turns, parts with a little bit crosswind, parts going through these villages. If you don't pay attention, you'll be riding in last wheel before you know it. Train crossing, the train was coming, so it is a moment to take a pee. I skipped through because I don't want to show that, but we all took a pee. It was a very fast pee because the train passes by really quick. So it's pee and go. Get on the bike really quick or you'll be behind the cars, and that's gonna be a shit place like you've seen in previous videos. And right here, another sharp corner. A couple guys are taking the grass, so I was doing the same. And then right next to me, a big crash and a big pile up again. Second big crash in the race. Second time I could go around, or I was lucky that I was not in the race. If I would stay on the road in that corner, I would have been right in the middle of this crash. So I was kind of happy I missed it again. So coming out of this crash, back out in the open field, and then it happens again. Like 500 meters later, guys are flying into the ditch and are on the ground again. And I luckily missed it again. Crash number 3 is going crazy. And then you can see the long stretch out field here on the left going through this turn. These crashes and these sharp turns, they make the field stretch out. and when you're in the back, you just have to push a little bit harder to get back. So trying to get back into a nice compact peloton right here. Okay, we're cutting corners in this race, so here we go again, taking the grass, shortcut. Yeah, sometimes you have to do whatever is in your possibilities, but I wasn't making up any places really, so it doesn't really matter. 70 kilometers into the race, back on the front with the entire Electo and Vlasman team here, right here is present. You can see the motorcycle up there, so I'm pretty sure I'm in the front of the race. There's no breakaway, that's good. And just checking out what was going on. Nothing really, but we knew that the cobbles were getting close. 70k in the race, 100k in the race, the cobbles would start. So, you know, guys that were getting more nervous, people were more aggressive towards the front, and you could really notice in the riders. So again, back in the front, guys are sort of looking at each other. Is someone gonna attack or not? Until now, it was a steady pace. There was no more really abrupt attacks or anything. Maybe it was silence before the storm. I don't know. And then here we have some sharper corners again. It's like criterium racing. Sharp corners and accelerating. Big accelerations here after the turns. But in general, it wasn't too bad. The roads on this race were not too narrow, except the cobbles, which you will see later. But right here we have 10k to go and everybody is really pushing towards the front. It's getting more hectic. It's getting more crowded. Guys are going around, going off the streets to get to the front, making up places, and you could really feel that it was coming. Bumping shoulders here. So it's position. It's all about position. Position is important. If you don't have the correct position in the front, and the wind is coming from the side, or if you hit like a narrow cobble section, you're done. You're behind the gap, and it's over. So I sort of knew I had to stay towards the front. Right now I'm in about the first 50 riders, so that's still okay. We have about 10k to go to the cobbles, so I still had some time to move up. And this was a very nice moment to move up. As you can see, I'm almost in the front. There's only like 15 riders in front of me, so I have a really good position right now. And this was really my focus of the race, to get in a good position on the moment it really mattered. So as far as my personal goals, I could say I was about to accomplish my personal goal. And then right here we are out in the open field again, nice wide road, and then this happens. Major crash, guys are flying over the top of each other, the whole road is filled with bikes and riders. I had a quick peek to see if I could, I don't even know why I had a peek, to see if I could help a teammate or whatever. I couldn't really see any. I know Thomas was involved in that crash. He actually broke his frame and he was not able to continue. And here we are with a few guys that were stuck behind the crash, and it's really important to just start rotating, because the guys in front, they keep on going. It's not like the judges will sort of slow them down to give the other riders behind the crash the opportunity to catch up. No, they're just going. They're just going with 50k an hour, and we are stuck behind the crash, and it's on us to close this gap and get back in the race. Jeroen, my teammate, was with me in this group, and here we are picking up 2 other guys, and we're about to pick up some more guys, and then we made quite of a big group, so we had a good chance of coming back. But this was right before the cobble section, right before the most important part of the race, where everything was gonna happen. So kind of weird. Right here I'm taking a corner. Sometimes this group was not very organized. A couple guys were working, and then there's always a few guys that just hang in the back, and they think that if they just hang in the back, they would conserve energy by doing nothing, and the other guys would close the gap. Well, here we get onto the cobbles, and I apologize for the shaky footage. It's terrible, but that's just because these cobbles were super bumpy. Imagine if the footage is this shaky, how it was actually to ride. Very bumpy cobbles right here, going through this forest, and yeah, we have a big gap towards the group, so we wanted to close this gap, and now we're also on the cobbles, so it made it extra hard. And the power numbers I'm pushing out aren't that big. 350 watts isn't that crazy, but on this bumpy surface, it's just very hard to actually push down this power. And sometimes I was trying to go more to the left, more to the right, trying to go next to the cobbles like I'm doing right here, through the dirt, but it actually had more resistance than just the bumpy cobbles, as you can see in the power readings. So then I was just getting back in the middle, which would end up to be the best spot. So it took us a long time to catch back with the group, but we did it. We got back, and right now it's back in one group, but I had no idea if it was still all together or if there was another breakaway. I was in the back of the group, and it was pretty hard to get to the front because there was a couple cobble sections closely following each other. So the speeds between these sections were high because everybody wants to be in the front. So it was a constant race. So getting in the back of the group, and it was actually important to move up, but it was kind of hard. So here we go again, pretty high speeds, again on these brick roads in and out the villages. And like I said, we have more cobble section coming up. So a couple turns, going off-road again. And then back on the cobbles. Very bumpy cobbles again. At high speeds. 37, 38 kilometers an hour over cobbles. Into the wind. It was pretty tough. And it was just hanging on. There's not a lot of room to overtake because the only sort of the best place to ride was in the middle, and on the sides it would just get so much worse. Again, I'm trying to find another way next to the cobbles in the dirt, but it was really just the middle was the best place to ride actually. And when you're here, you have nothing else to do than to hang on. If there's someone that opens up a gap in the front, then it's pretty hard to react. If you end up behind the gap, you'll have to close it, and if you don't, you get dropped. So it was tough. It was tough racing these cobbles. I don't have a lot of experience riding cobbles. I only did one race on cobbles in Copenhagen like a year ago. It was a criterium on really bumpy cobbles, and I remember it was really hard race. And then this is sort of the second time I'm on these crazy cobbles. So right here, a big gap. There's a couple guys that couldn't follow, and the beat rider here in front of me, he's taking the lead and the initiative to close it. So I'm staying behind him, and hopefully I can just hang on until the end of this cobble section. And you can see the camera footage is getting more and more shaky. What actually happened was that the mount of my camera was getting loose and was about to break. So while I'm riding these cobbles, I'm also sort of having one eye on this camera mount, which was also holding my navigation computer, my cycling computer. So I didn't want it to drop, because then I would lose both. The other guy I've beat, he joined us, and he actually gave a pretty good pull. And right here, getting back on the road, they just pull off, and I was too tired, I couldn't follow. But looking back, there was quite a big group, so I figured, okay, I'm just gonna try and work together with this group to close this gap. And we did. It took a little while, but we closed the gap, and we're all back together again. Back into the villages, and another crash. Crash number 4. It's going crazy in this race. I've already avoided 4 crashes, so I think I should get a medal just for that. Pretty crazy. I was happy. And before you could think anything else, on to another cobble section. So So yeah, this was a hard time in the race. There was no break, there was no recovery. It was cobbles, racing through villages, cobbles, racing through sharp turns, cobbles, and so on and so on. So pretty hard. Couple sharp turns, and then another cobble section was about to come up, and I was trying to move forward. At this moment I knew I was not in a good position. I was too far back, that's simple. But to catch up is so much harder than to keep up. Right here, another cobble section, and you can see a big gap opens up right in front of me that I couldn't really have any effect on, and then it's on me to close the gap or on the guys behind me to work together. But if that doesn't happen, what do you do? Again, I'm riding on the dirt, trying to find the difference, but by now I sort of knew that the cobbles would be the best place to ride. But I was just trying to get the best option. Jeroen, my teammate, he had to drop out as well, so hopefully he could hang on in my wheel, and you can see a big gap is opening up. So right now we're trying to get organized and close it. The Cannibal is taking the lead here, and oh, we're not done with the cobbles yet. So another cobble section. It was just a really hard time. I was having a hard time. Like I said, the power output isn't that big, but it's just so much harder to push down power when you are on the cobbles, because your wheels are bumping around on these big stones, and there's so much vibration in the bike and in the pedals and in your whole body. It's just really hard to push down high power numbers. So 300-400 watts is a lot. I was taking this corner a little too wide, went all the way to the outside. I actually almost crashed, but I got back. And the shittiest thing is to re-accelerate on this cobble section. It's just really freaking hard. And the camera footage is getting worse and worse. The mount was getting loose, and it just started vibrating and bumping up and down more and more. So I was actually pretty worried about losing the whole mount with the camera and my cycling computer. So I had already taken off the computer, put it in my rear pocket, but I couldn't get off the camera or the mount. It was bolted. So it was just a waiting game till it actually fell off, and I just wanted to keep an eye on it so I could actually grab it when it would break, which was a lucky shot. A tip I can give for riding on cobbles is obviously think about your setup. What I already said, wider tires and lower tire pressure will help a lot. The less you bounce around, the less energy you lose, and the smoother you'll go over the cobbles. But another thing is RPM. If you have a little lower RPM, it's easier to keep tension on your chain, which will have a smaller chance of you actually dropping the chain while you're bouncing around on these cobbles. So instead of spinning with 110 RPM, I was more like doing 85 to 95 RPMs to keep some pressure on the pedals and pressure on the chain. This will help a little bit with riding on cobbles. Here we get off the cobble section, and there's a major gap. So now it's on us again to close this gap. It was the same story over and over, and it's just like a vicious circle that you get into, and it's really hard to get out and to actually get to the front of the race. So here we are rotating with the left behind group. I'm not sure exactly how many guys there were, but it was like 20 or 25 guys. So we still had a pretty good chance to get back if we all would work together, because the gap to the leading group wasn't that big. But it still takes a lot of energy. So a little while later, we closed the gap and we got back with the first group. As you can see here, where I'm riding in between the cars, and then you try to go car by car, draft a little bit behind the car, move up one car, and that's how you get back into the peloton. So a couple kilometers later, I'm actually pretty far to the front again. So I made up a lot of positions. I improved my position in the peloton, which was pretty good. And then 10k later, we hit another cobble section. But right at that moment, I wasn't far enough in the front. So I end up again, like halfway in the group, riding behind all these other guys. You see it's very narrow. I try to find a place on the side of the cobbles, but it was just too loose and too bumpy. It's crazy bumpy, and the footage makes no sense anymore because the mount is totally loose and it's already bumpy, so it's super crap. I'm sorry for that, but everybody's pushing pretty hard, but at some point now actually I have a gap and I couldn't keep up with the wheel. I thought this guy was gonna go in between, but he didn't, so I didn't really close it, and from here on the gap is just too big, so I couldn't follow. I get overtaken by a few riders, and every time I just couldn't really follow, so I end up sort of having a gap, which was my fault this time. Really shit moment because it's just hard. Riding on these cobbles, super bouncy. We're already like 3 hours in this race, and it's a vicious circle. Every time I end up at the end of the group, or at least not far forward enough, and you have to sort of try to catch up, which is so hard, instead of just keeping up with the first 10 riders. So here we are again, single file after the cobble section. It all got back together again. It's the same thing over and over until it breaks and it never gets back together. So this was sort of the moment where it was breaking. After this, it would never get back together. It was single file. A couple of guys went to the right to create a new echelon. So I thought, okay, let's do this. It will be better. It's the best for all of us if we just rotate very fast and work with each other. And you can see the other guys that were hanging in the gutter of this first group, they're already falling off the back. So we end up in this group again, but this time it was just a chase with no successful ending. We're riding on a decent pace, but not everybody in the group was working. There were like 10 or 15 guys just hanging off the back, and we're rotating with about 5 to 10 riders in the front. So to race against the peloton, which was a bigger group right there in front of us, was a hard task for us. And also, it's almost the end of the race. We're 145k in, and it's only 175 kilometers in total. So we have like 30 kilometers. That's maybe 40 minutes to the end of the race. So from this point on, it's only gonna get faster. The finale is always the fastest moment in the race, and if you get dropped here with a group that doesn't work completely together, it's gonna be hard. A couple minutes later, I was waiting for this moment. I was watching the camera mount the whole time. I grabbed it and I could just sort of pull it off. So now it's broken. I have it in my hand and I immediately just stick it into my rear pocket, because what was I gonna do with it? Well, I still have a rear camera, so that's pretty cool. So we're watching to the rear right now. We have this group of riders all sort of rotating together a little bit, but for me, at this point, it was just finishing the race. On contrary, well, at this moment, I still had an idea of pulling off the sprint. Just like I said last week, I wanted to practice. I want to practice that position to the sprint in the last part of the race. And here I grabbed the camera. Okay, the camera broke off. Usually I can't do this because the camera is fixed. I don't know how much we have left. It's about 3K. Less than half an hour. So we had 20 kilometers left. So I've got my computer in my right pocket and then the camera in the left pocket. Looking back to the rear, check out this guy from the IJsselstreek. He crashed and he was bleeding all over on his knees and on his hand, and he's still waving to the camera. So big respect to this guy for continuing the race and not getting in the team car and cruising back towards the finish. Tough guys we are as a cyclist, but here we go, 2 teammates. We're still doing pretty well in this group, 3 guys of my team. And like I said, I still had the idea until now that I wanted to go for a little sprint at the end. But I also realized that I didn't really focus on the last part of the race as a preparation. so I didn't really have an idea what the last 2-3 kilometers were like. And since my idea was more to be at the right moment in the right part of the race to actually get into a group, I didn't really think that much about the actual finish, which can be stupid. You can think, wow, that's stupid. Why wouldn't you think of that? Well, because every other race I've done until now, I haven't been in the position to actually go for a win or whatever, at least not on this level. So I was focusing on other things in this race. So you can't focus on too many things. And in this race, I didn't really focus on the finish. So looking back, a guy from Beat here, he was doing really strong pulls in this group, but every time he would go to the front and pull hard, there was no cooperation and not a lot of riders would follow. So unfortunately, we really could not use his strong performance. If we would have really worked together, we might have even just be able to close the gap towards the front group, and then everybody's back in a position to win. But in this case, it wasn't really like that. We just weren't fast enough with the group we're in right now to catch back up. And then here we are for the last 2 kilometers in the race. Big thumbs up from Nahom, the guy from Beat I was just talking about. And this was the moment I realized I didn't really know the last 2 kilometers of the finish. I was staying in front the whole time, and I wasn't happy with being in 3rd place or 4th place, so I fell back a little bit, and from that time it was all corners. So right here we have a left-hand corner, and then it's closely followed by a right hand, another left hand. It was all bends and turns, and the guys in the front are pushing hard and accelerating, going faster and faster. And I realized, okay, I screw up for this sprint. So what I did right now is just follow wheels, and I didn't put in a crazy effort to try and force any result. Sometimes it's just better to count your blessings, and I was just happy that I didn't crash in this race. Right here we're riding up to that track that we started on, and it's basically like 200-300 meters. I see the finish and I see so many riders in front of me that I just roll it out towards the finish. I was happy I didn't crash, and the end result isn't important in this race and in this case. So guys, thanks a lot again for watching the video. Don't forget to like it, share it with friends if they want to learn about race tactics and racing in a pro peloton. This is the channel and the videos to watch, and stay tuned for the end of the video.
That was another tough race. Let me start with the most important. I'm really happy that I didn't crash. It was crazy. I was very nervous. I think there were 4 major crashes right in front of me. I've seen guys on the ground in pain and stuff. So yeah, I'm happy that I'm still on the bike. I didn't go for a result. In the end, I just I was sort of blindfolded going into the finish, and I figured I'm happy that I'm still up the bike, so let's do that. I have a couple other things that I learned today and that went pretty well, so overall pretty good. No idea what I finished, but the result doesn't matter.
Okay, another race in the books. We're gonna be driving home, working tomorrow. I'm flying to Hong Kong for a couple days. Next weekend is gonna be Braakman. That's another race with cobbles. So I guess today was a good practice for next week. Tuning the bike for next week. I'm probably gonna lower my tire pressure, and I'm gonna fix that camera mount because the whole camera fell off. I didn't have a cycling computer at the end, so that was pretty crap. Anyway, gain some experience. Gonna take it to the next race. Guys, thanks for watching. Give me a like on these videos and leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions for next videos, or if you just want to give me a shout out. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna see you next time. See ya! Zo, dus je voelt je niet zo lekker?
Nee, ik heb nooit zo hard gevallen, hoor.
Nee?
Nee. Oh, op de kop gevlogen, vol op mijn achterhoofd. Nou, ik had echt een dikke witte flits, hè?
Kut wel.
Ik kon gewoon niet meer opstaan.